it's Mike and Chris. We are back from San Diego Comic-Con. We are slowly recovering.
Very slowly.
And we're here to talk about some of our favorite moments, favorite experiences from the weekend. I want to start talking about some of our favorite panels.
Yes.
And I have to bring up the, arguably the biggest panel of the entire weekend was Warner Brothers.
By big, you mean 2 hours long. It was a very long panel.
It was 2 hours long, and they had 6 movies, and they started with Fantastic Beasts, and it was just like, it just didn't stop from there. Like, it was crazy. Like, it started with like Johnny Depp coming out, and like they had all of this like weird experiential stuff with like these bracelets that were lighting up, and everybody was like, Johnny Depp was like in character, and it was just completely insane. And then it literally didn't slow down. They went to the Lego movie. They went to Godzilla King of the Monsters, which may have been the best trailer
It looks so good.
Of the whole week, which took me completely by surprise. And then they went into DC, and it was the Shazam debut, the first time they had ever showed that trailer. And then it was Wonder Woman, and they showed footage from Wonder Woman, even though that just started shooting recently, which is incredible, and that didn't even get released, so it's just for people who were in Hall H. And then they did Aquaman, and they showed that whole trailer, and then they showed exclusive footage for that wasn't even in the trailer, where he was in his costume. I'm getting like excited talking about it.
I heard about
really
this
cool.
classic Aquaman costume thing, and I'm angry that I wasn't there for it because it sounds amazing.
It was really cool. I definitely would have thought that it would look stupid if they ever tried to do that in live action, but it looked cool.
Did it really? Oh, that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
So I was there for the Halloween panel. I love horror movies, and I love especially the Halloween franchise. It's just 40 years after the first movie, Laurie Strode's been waiting for this moment to happen, and Michael breaks out and he resumes killing randomly, and we saw him walking the streets with kids while kids were trick-or-treating all around him. He walks right into one woman's house. He kills her with a hammer.
God.
Then he picks up the knife that she was using to cut the ham for dinner and leaves the house to find his next victim.
Oh my God.
And this is all, again, this is all in one shot. We're following him the entire way. He goes up to the next house. He sees a woman inside giving candy to kids, goes up the side of her house, goes inside. She goes to pull the blinds down, and all of a sudden we see him behind her, slowly moving forward. And then he just jams the knife through the back of her neck, and you see it come out the front, and they're not pulling any punches with this movie, and it's harsh.
Terrible. And I wish I'd seen it.
Oh, it's so good. Something really cool happened during the Halloween panel. During the fan Q&A, I became a fan of the fan Q&A portion this year for this very reason. A gentleman, like a middle-aged gentleman, got up and just thanked Jamie Lee Curtis for saving his life, which nobody really understood where this was going because it could have gone somewhere very weird.
Yeah.
He said when he was little, he saw Halloween, and then shortly thereafter, someone broke into his house with a knife. And he knew what to do because he saw Laurie Strode do it in the movie.
What did he do?
He snuck out of the house and ran up the street screaming for anyone to come help him.
That didn't work in Halloween, though.
It worked for him. He said, I believe he said, like, one of his neighbors was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But then the next neighbor helped him out.
Okay.
But like, he started crying, and Jamie Lee Curtis at first did not know if he was being serious. Once she realized he was being serious, she came down off the stage, and they just stood off to the side, hugging and talking and crying.
Oh my God.
Like, while the panel kept going, and like, everyone loved it because it was such a good moment.
That's so cute. I still hate fan Q&As.
That's fair.
Y'all come up with some better questions. Good God.
What's weird is, like, especially in the TV show panels, I noticed the kids asked the really good questions, and the adults were not so great.
I really enjoyed the Sony panel.
Yes.
Not because of Venom, which still looks bad, but because of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
They showed a bunch of footage for that, including like all this stuff we didn't know about the movie before. Like it's Miles Morales obviously is the Spider-Man of the main universe, but it's the Spider-Verse, and so there's all these other universes coming in, and they showed that in Miles's, in like the main universe of the movie, Peter Parker existed, but he's dead. So Miles goes to like visit his grave, and it's like some scenes that are kind of pulled from the comics, but they do them a little bit differently. And then other universe, Peter Parker shows up and all this stuff happens, and then other universe, Gwen Stacy shows up and she's Spider-Gwen, and that was all cool. Kingpin is in it, and we caught a glimpse of him. And then they showed 3 new we've been debating this, Spider-Men, Spider-Mans, but I think we settled on Spider-Folk.
Spider-Folk.
There were more panels that you were excited about too.
Bumblebee. don't like the Transformers movies, I'm sorry. The Michael Bay series of Transformers films are what I have sort of dubbed visual gibberish. There's so much going on at one time that you never know what's happening in any given scene. But the footage they brought of Bumblebee, they brought a trailer, obviously, but then they brought 2 sort of extended scenes that took up about 8 minutes. And
those didn't get released.
They did not get released. But it shows how simplified things are. It's like one-on-one robot fights.
Right, because there's only like 4.
Yeah, there's 4. There's Bumblebee, there's Blitzwing. The jet in the trailer is not Starscream. The director apologized to all of the very sad people in the crowd when he let that out, but it's Blitzwing. And then there's Shatter, I believe, and Dropkick, who are triple changers. They can turn into muscle cars, and also one turns into a jet, and one turns into a helicopter. At one point, Bumblebee activates some sort of hologram, and what we saw was a hologram image of Optimus Prime, but not the one from the movies. It was very heavily inspired by sort of the first generation toys and cartoon Optimus, which people were very happy about.
Whenever anyone talks about Transformers, it sounds so awesome. Like, it turns into a car and a jet.
Yes.
And it makes me sad that Michael Bay made so many bad Transformers movies. Yeah. So, you know, I'll always give these things the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
The other panel that I really enjoyed was Preacher. And panels that take place, like whenever Comic-Con falls like in the middle of a season of TV, it's never as exciting a panel. But the Preacher panel is just so funny. Like Joe Gogun, who plays Cassidy, at one point invited everybody in Hall H, which is thousands of people, back to his hotel for drinks. And he almost revealed where they were all staying.
That would not
until
have gone
Dominic
well.
Cooper and Ruth Negga were like, no, please. No filter on that man's mouth.
Good on him.
And Seth Rogen was super funny, and it was it was just a fun panel. And they showed some footage that looked really good. So
excellent. For me on the TV side, I was very surprised by The Flash. I have been very critical of The Flash the past couple of years because it hasn't been great, but they are bringing in a new villain this year. If you've read the comics, Cicada is sort of a cult leader who gets his leaders to just kill people that the Flash has saved. That's his whole thing.
Sounds dark.
They're adapting him a bit for the TV show, obviously, but it's played by Chris Klein of Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li, and American Pie fame. And the little bits we saw of him on the trailer, which you can see on the site, looks so cool. He kills people with lightning bolt-shaped daggers.
So, like, you're like a big murder fan, it seems like.
Listen.
Okay, we've talked about panels so far. Let's talk about some of our non-panel favorite things.
There's a lot.
And the first thing that I need to bring up was the most amazing thing that I've ever done at Comic-Con, and I'm so sorry that you weren't there. The Taco Bell Demolition Man recreation was so cool.
I
it was
can't believe
so
I missed
good.
it.
They recreated the Taco Bell from Demolition Man, which is a 25-year-old, a 25-year-old movie, and it's set in the future. And the Taco Bell is the only restaurant left because it won the franchise wars.
Yes.
And it's where everybody goes and they get super excited about it, and it's like extremely fancy. And they recreated it down every detail. We talked to a guy from Taco Bell when we were there. They worked directly with Warner Brothers, who gave them like access to the archives for this film, access to props so they could recreate things. They had a guy playing piano, singing commercial jingles. They had all of the servers in the restaurant were dressed the same. They recreated the food down to like the silver platter with individual chips on it, with the like
The squiggle of sauce?
the squiggle of sauce. And then they riffed and they had their own things. They had like a crunch wrap that was like, it was like a greasy tortilla and then like a layer of congealed cheese and then like steak and like raw tuna.
Sounds like fine
It was
dining.
crazy. It was really good. And they had nacho fries, which like they had nacho fries earlier this year. And then
I
they
know how you feel about
discontinued them,
nacho fries.
And now they brought them back for this. I spent too much money on t-shirts, which is, as you can see,
I heard
it
they
was
even
so cool.
I heard they even recorded video with Dan Cortez, who played the piano in the movie.
Yeah.
The
They had-
attention to detail is
Yes.
pretty fantastic.
It's like not, I love Taco Bell, unironically, it's just, I just love Taco
Yeah.
Bell. I love Demolition Man. But on top of, like, besides that, it was just a super, super detailed, really fun activation. People were waiting in line for hours. for this.
It was honestly, every year there's so many activations to try to get through. This one was the hit of Comic-Con.
It was the best activation I've ever been to.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry you weren't there.
I only did one activation this year, and it was I did a demo for the DC Universe streaming service, which will have good old Titans with Robin saying "F Batman."
Batman.
The service is really cool. It works really well.
So this is one of your favorite things?
Yes.
Wow.
I really had a blast. To me, it's worth. I believe the price is $7.99 a month. You get access to films, TV shows, comic books, a social community aspect that I'll probably avoid like the plague, and then like a DC encyclopedia sort of section that'll tell you everything you want to know.
Is there anything on
everything.
it that I would want to watch? You know what I like.
How about Birds of Prey? No. Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. No. Justice League. It's not on there.
It's not?
But along with sort of the demo, they had different sort of experiences set up for each of the shows, including for the Harley Quinn animated series, you go into a jail cell and you break stuff and you throw paint at the walls. Like you're chaotic. But the best one was Swamp Thing, where it's like an obstacle course through a swamp. And they built it out really nice, and then there are definitely things in the swamp trying to eat you.
That sounds fun.
Swamp Thing!
One of my other favorite activations besides Taco Bell was the FX edition.
Oh, yeah.
Not because anything was particularly great, just because we shot a really fun video there. And
every year FX does this thing, and I'm glad it changes from year to year. It's never the same thing twice.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it's good. I mean, they were giving out sunscreen and water to people,
which is important.
Some of them were air conditioned, which is a big deal. So that's fun.
Another fun thing I got to do was interview the Ninja Turtles in virtual reality, which it's for the upcoming Rise of the TMNT show. It's a very weird experience to stand in a green room with a headset on your head, and suddenly you're talking to the actual actors from the show. Except they're actual Ninja Turtles, and they're making jokes about you and your head. That
sounds like so much effort.
It was a lot for like 4 minutes of me being like, so what's your favorite kind of pizza?
Yeah.
But it was very cool.
Nintendo always does a thing at one of the hotels nearby where they have games to play, and I just want to plug Overcooked 2 because Dave and I got to play it for about 45 minutes because it was preview night, nobody else was there, and that game f***ing rules. And the only other thing I'll mention is the Iron Fist panel. I want to bring that up because it wasn't a particularly good panel because it's Iron Fist and Jeff Loeb is like super hammy. He's like Marvel's head of TV. And I didn't really expect them to, but it would have been fun for them to kind of acknowledge, yeah, season 1, maybe some people were disappointed. We're going to do better.
Not maybe some people were disappointed. It was not good.
Right, but like there's a way that they could have acknowledged it during the panel.
Right.
And they didn't, which was, I think it would have been kind of cool and self-aware for them to do that. They actually showed some footage and it looks pretty good. Like I'm totally gonna give it the benefit of the doubt.
Cool.
But it was just a wild experience to be in a panel for the second season of a Netflix show that was nearly universally despised. So that was just crazy.
And my last highlight is just the general happiness that Clone Wars is saved. They announced at the 10th anniversary panel that it's coming back to finish out the story. It's coming to the Disney streaming service, which is weird because they haven't said when that's coming yet or how that's going to work, but I don't care. If Clone Wars is going to be on it, I'm going to buy it. And if you haven't watched Clone Wars, Star Wars Clone Wars, or Star Wars Rebels yet, you're missing out on probably the best Star Wars. So stop complaining about Solo and The Last Jedi and go watch these shows.
Bold claim. So lastly, let's talk about a couple of things that were disappointing a little bit. For once, we can't complain about the weather because it was actually kind of
pretty nice. Yeah,
it was like low 70s, which is in years past it's been like 100, so that was fine.
Yeah.
I was disappointed that I did not get to go to the Predator panel and see that footage. That's just a personal one for me that has nothing to do with Comic-Con itself. It's just that the footage was apparently awesome. Something about predators ripping each other's heads off that I'm sad I missed. And then the Legion panel on Sunday was a little bit disappointing because they started it. Season 2 of Legion just ended, and they started this panel with a 15-minute montage from season 2. which is just like, it just feels so disrespectful to everyone who's there.
It's the
to
last
show
panel on the last day. The only people who stuck around are people who watched season 2.
Right, exactly. Like the way Hall H works is sometimes people will be in your panel because they are excited for a panel that comes afterward. Not when it's the last one. Those people were there to see Legion stuff and had probably watched season 2. So wasting 15 minutes of like a 45-minute panel with footage, and then they didn't have any, the moderator didn't have any good questions, they didn't have anything to tease for season 3. It was just a really bad panel.
For me, it's not necessarily like a disappointment, but like this con as a whole felt very strange. I haven't figured out why exactly yet. Obviously, Marvel wasn't there. HBO wasn't there. Those are two big missing things from sort of the Hall H experience. But
yeah, when there's no Disney, there's no Star Wars, there's no Marvel, there's no Game of Thrones, there's no Westworld.
Yeah.
It does feel like the biggest thing was DC, and I think that they totally owned it.
Absolutely.
But I agree with you that it felt a little weird for all of these things that are so big in pop culture to have no presence at all.
And I think maybe my issue with it is all these big things weren't there, but all the people still were. And which is a good thing for Comic-Con, because that means like it doesn't, like Marvel isn't the draw for Comic-Con. Comic-Con is a draw for Comic-Con. But at the same time, man, if all those things aren't going to be there, I at least want it to be a little easier to walk the floor and like go shopping for
it was
things.
still really
like
crowded.
I had stuff I wanted to buy. You know what I did get though? Got them Golden Girls socks though.
I bought some Rick and Morty comics.
Did you? Nice.
Yeah.
And but that was about it, because like I just couldn't handle the floor at all.
Yeah. The lines for Hall H were shorter.
That's true. There were still people camped out overnight.
Yeah, because the big ones of the like Warner Brothers was first thing Saturday morning. So people camped out to go to that. But then almost any other panel throughout the day you could just walk into, which was like insane for Comic-Con. I've never seen that before.
You know what's weird though? Supernatural and Riverdale were packed on Sunday.
I don't find that weird at all. Overall, I loved this Comic-Con. I had a really good year because of some of the things, like even that you said were disappointing. Like the workload was lighter than normal.
Yeah.
And we got to see a bunch of cool stuff, and the weather was nice.
I mean, this Comic-Con for me is going to go down as the Comic-Con where I got to see new Halloween footage. Like, and it's something as simple as that. And I mentioned it earlier. I really loved fan Q&As starting this year.
Thanks for watching. Hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Rogue Cheddar. He is at Chris Hayner.
That's me.
Let us know if you were at Comic-Con, what you thought of this year. Head to GameSpot.com/comic-con for the rest of our Comic-Con coverage, and we will see you there next year. You shooting people?